What do you think when you hear this?
Sega!
What you just heard was a jingle that belongs to a team of individuals that has a lot of promising potential. After a close encounter with their own demise in 2001, with the Dreamcast being Sega's last console, they crawled out of their own grave and have been making a slow comeback to the top. And don't get me wrong, we've gotten some really good titles, but they can go even further beyond what they're capable of. And you can't make it to the top without remembering your roots. So the big question is, what made Sega? There are tons of influential titles when it comes to Sega. Go ahead and give me some characters you think of when Sega gets brought up. If you named any of these characters, I wouldn't blame you. Although these are some riveting IPs, there are some franchises that are missing from this list. But before I reveal these ragtag group of characters, we have to talk about the category that culminates the heart of Sega as a whole. And although some of these games are story driven, I think it still makes sense to put them in this category. Who remembers classic arcade cabinets? Pac-Man, Ninja Turtles, X-Men. And it always feels like a fever dream seeing this one, but the uncanny Simpsons arcade. What's the primary function when using an arcade cabinet? And no, the answer is not for them to scam you. Unless you're playing House of the Dead, then that's pretty understandable. The actual answer is to get the high score. Well, that's the category I think of when it comes to Sega. When playing Sonic, you want to beat the level as quick as you can to attain the fastest time. In Super Monkey Ball, you want to survive as long as you could so you can unlock the extra levels at the end. And even though Yakuza is a story-driven game, you fight in a 3D beat-em-up kind of way, taking out thugs and kicking ass! Before I go on, if you grew up with Sonic, Monkey Ball, Samba the Amigo, Billy Hatcher, or any Sega title, I genuinely want to know what you think of when someone brings up Sega. Maybe they aren't as arcadey as they used to be, but I always think of arcadey fun. For example, there was this one arcade cabinet I remember playing vaguely, where you kidnap people in a bright yellow car in broad daylight, while they wave at you, and when you drop them off, they pay you for it. This game is called
Crazy Taxi!
Pretend you're an Uber driver with a time limit. You have to drive up to someone and say,
"I'm your Uber driver, get in."
Then you have to haul ass because every second counts. You mess up even one ride, it can cost you your high score. This game started out as an arcade cabinet, and eventually got ported over to the Dreamcast in the year 2000, and other consoles that were out around that time in 2002. They actually ended up making a sequel called Crazy Taxi 2.
Crazy Taxi 2! Crazy Taxi 2!
Crazy Taxi 2 had the unique feature of bringing along more than one person. Pretty game breaking if you ask me. The more people, the more
money!
We actually ended up getting Crazy Taxi 3, which I had no idea about this. And you could ride on different vehicles. There's a carriage you can use that's squeaking the whole time you bring your customer to their destination. And why are they even getting dropped off here? There's nothing here. It's like, you know what? I think I'll sleep on this side of the rock tonight. In 2007, we got Crazy Taxi Fare Wars. In this game, they combined Crazy Taxi 1 and 2 and added multiplayer. You get to go against a friend to see who can make the most sales. Unfortunately, it wasn't on console, so there was no split screen, and when I found out, I completely lost it. We got a few other titles that were on handhelds, but the last two were on mobile. The final game was a straight up tycoon. It's pretty tame, I mean it's a mobile game after all. No crashing into cars, no running people over, and no Gus! We can't talk about running people over without them trying to defend themselves like a Street Fighter character. Let's talk about good old beatdown titles. There's two more Sega titles that are actually originally adapted from arcade machines. And that's Big Mother Truckers and the Backyardigans, baby! Just kidding, we're talking about the Big Boys, Golden Axe, and Shinobi. These are pretty compelling titles that are vastly different in art style and design, but both riveting to play. Shinobi is a very dark game. You control a shinobi named Joe Musashi, and you have to put an end to a criminal organization called Zed. So the reason it's so dark is because Zed actually kidnaps students from Joe's clan, kidnaps his wife Nayoko, and they kill Joe's master.
Lamp oil, rope, bombs? You want it? It's yours, my friend, as long as you have enough rubies.
So just like John Wick, Joe travels the world absolutely demolishing Zed, saving his students, and once he reaches the final boss, which is extremely difficult, you have to save Nayoko within a certain time limit or she gets crushed by a rock. I'm not even kidding, look at this. There are 11 games in the franchise, with Nightshade being the last game, and it being a direct sequel to Shinobi on the PS2 22 years ago. The franchise has been deceased ever since, never to be revived, just like... Every time I see this game, it kinda reminds me of an honest D&D campaign, but all your players have max stats in the first environment. You fight waves of mobs and progress through levels in search of the Golden Axe. It's a medieval fantasy game that eventually got ported over to the Sega Genesis, along with Shinobi, which really needed the treatment because look at the difference, it's just astonishing. There's one last hack and slash game that we haven't talked about, and that's Streets of Rage. It's crazy to me that this game was first released on the Genesis, and not an arcade machine considering the games we just talked about. But, just like Shinobi's and Golden Axe's re-releases, Streets of Rage looks bright, colorful, and vivid, and the wild thing about these games is that, in the first and third game, they have alternate endings. So depending on the choices you make in the story, with the second game having a wide selection of things to do, the first game you can actually become the boss of the criminal syndicate. If you and a friend play and reach the final boss, Mr. X, after defeating his grunts, he'll both ask you if you want to join the organization. If one player says no and the other says yes, you guys will have to fight each other, and if the player that said yes defeats you, they will have a chance to fight and defeat Mr. X. They'll earn the title of becoming the ultimate mob boss. Or you could beat the story normally if you both say no and kick his ass. The last game, Streets of Rage 4, was released in 2020, which performed great and praised by longtime fans of the series. There's one title missing from this silhouette, and that's... I'm sure a lot of you have heard of Jet Set Radio, but you go around spraying graffiti in Tokyo, challenging rival gangs with your very own ragtag team of members, while simultaneously dodging cops if you get caught with your pants down. Jet Set takes a very different approach when it comes to its art design. It's a cel-shaded game with very bright neon colors, and the game was inspired by 90s American culture. Aside from the art design being sharp and loud, and the music being very vibrant, catchy, and overall standing out, I grew up playing Tony Hawk games, so this game fell into my hands naturally. Jet Set Radio is a cult classic and beloved by so many people, and you know a game did a great job when it served inspiration for other titles. And that's pretty much Sega's classic lineup that are coming back for the first time in years. And with these titles coming back, a lot of fans that grew up with these games will come back too. While I was working on this video, Sega legit revealed two more titles that are actually pretty interesting. And that's with the new Monkey Balls and the new Sonic X Shadow. Which, if you don't know what that is, definitely search it up. Hopefully Sega cooks with these new games. If they do, they'll make a huge comeback. Not that they're doing bad financially or anything. I mean, why would I ever say that? I also heard about a few leaks saying that Crazy Taxi and Jet Set were going to be live service games, which can be pretty bad if that's the main focus. You know, to make money in microtransactions instead of focusing on the game itself. But I guess only time will tell what we get. I'm only trying to be optimistic because I'm well aware companies love to nostalgia bait and do things for money. But if they work hard on the little things to make people that grew up with these titles happy, as well as the new fans that cherish Sega's games as well, then it'll all work out. Sega can make it out on top, and they have vast potential in making some masterpieces. We'll just have to wait and see.
Show me the princess. Perfect.
And if there are games that you guys want to see Sega make, let me know in the comments down below. If I had to pick 2 games, I'd probably go with Sonic Adventure 3 and Dr. Robotnik's Mean Bean Machine 2, baby. Let's go! Anyway, thank you guys so much for watching, and if you guys made it this far and enjoyed the video, please consider liking and subscribing because this video took a bit to make. And you know what? Maybe Sega will look at this video and go, well, this guy is one of our biggest Eggman Mean Bean Machine supporters. Let's just go ahead and make Sonic Adventure 3 now. But in all seriousness, thank you guys, and make sure to check out my other stuff too. Take care.